Councilmember James Brown and I are pleased to welcome you to the historic East End of downtown Lexington. And I also want to welcome Councilmember Richard Maloney, Public Safety Commissioner Ronnie Baston, our Commissioner of Social Services Chris Ford, who I'll mention again in just a minute, and members of the Charles Young Advisory Board are up here with me today as well. One of the reasons the East End is so historic is right here, the Charles Young Center. And we are proud to announce today that the Charles Young Center is now on the National Register of Historic Places. And we have just gotten the National Register plaque for the building. Now, many of you know that Charles Young had a remarkable and extraordinary life. He was a young man born into slavery in Mays Lick, who became a man who went to West Point and became the first black man to receive the rank of colonel. And this center, which opened in 1935, and the park that surrounded it, have played a remarkable role in the East End and the life of our city and the center of activities for many years. In recent years, we've made investments in the center, and today seems like the icing on the cake, and just in time for the East End reunion this weekend. I want to ask Councilmember James Brown to come up now so he can tell us more about the center and what it means to the East End neighborhood right here in Lexington. Councilmember Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm 1st District Councilman James Brown, and the Mayor is absolutely right. The plaque and recognition couldn't have come at a better time as this community prepares to celebrate the East End family reunion this weekend here at Charles Young Park. Charles Young is the anchor of the East End. It's a special place that holds a lot of memories for multiple generations of Lexingtonians. In the beginning, Charles Young was one of just a few public spaces designated for Lexington's black community. But it's important to point out that city officials understood or were made to understand the importance of Charles Young then, and city officials still understand that importance today. There has been support from the Mayor's Office, City Council, who has recently approved funding for summer programming here at Charles Young in 2017. Vice Mayor Kay, Councilmember Peggy Henson, then Vice Mayor Gordon, and then Councilmember Ford were part of the task force, along with several East End residents and community members that have transitioned into the advisory board. As downtown Lexington is being redeveloped along with the East End, it's important that we continue to celebrate and protect the history so we can share with the ones that have come behind us, the accomplishments and sacrifices of the ones that have come before us, like Colonel Charles Young and the advocates for the Charles Young Center, and for those that are responsible for ensuring that the Charles Young has a place on the National Registry of Historic Places. Thank you.
Thanks, Councilmember Brown. And now next we will hear from Larry Johnson, who is a member of the Charles Young Advisory Board and an advocate for our young people in the city. Larry?
Charles Young Center is an enduring institution and landmark in the East End for African Americans. I remember as a kid coming to the Charles Young Center when our church basketball team and a team from Cincinnati played right here in this room. When I step into this room, I can hear the crowd screaming, and I can see the cheerleaders with their pom-poms jumping, and I can see the team running up and down the court, and when they scored, the crowd went wild. And when I come now today and see young girls and boys in this room, it reminds me of when I was a kid right here in the East End area. With community input and the direction of its advisory board and the support of the urban county government, this center has experienced the revitalization since reopening 4 years ago. As a member of the board, I'm excited about what is happening in this center and even more excited about future potential. It is the desire of the board and the Lexington-Fayette Urban County government that the Charles Young Center become a high-traffic resource to its neighbors. Commissioner Jeff Reed, Commissioner Chris Ford, Councilman James Brown are working diligently with us to equip this center for increased community programming and activity. Our goal is to provide spaces for creating more memories that will last a lifetime. Thank you.
Larry, thank you so much. And now we will hear from Chris Ford, currently our Commissioner of Social Services for the city, but formerly our 1st District Council member and a big supporter of the center. Chris?
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning, everyone. It is definitely my honor to stand here this morning to celebrate such an accomplishment for the East End neighborhood, for the Charles Young Center and its supporters, for our local government, and for all of those who cherish historic preservation and a rich history here in Central Kentucky. As the mayor mentioned, I did have the fortune, prior to my role as Social Service Commissioner, to represent this district and to play a small role in working with neighbors, families, on the long path to get this center reopened and back to useful activity. And we feel that there's still activity to come. The best is yet to come, but today signifies a landmark being listed to the National Register. Betty perhaps will talk a little bit about Charles Young, Colonel Charles Young, who is a leader amongst leaders as far as African Americans in military service, rising to the rank of a colonel during his time, the 3rd graduate African American, that is, from the West Point Military Academy at West Point. There's a story about Colonel Young, of his strength and his determination and his fortitude in his efforts to be recommissioned to military service, riding horseback from his home in Wilberforce, Ohio to Washington, D.C. to prove his fitness for service. And he did just that. That is an illustration or an example of the commitment that this community has played in its support and advocacy for the Charles Young Center. There's too many people to name. There's so many people behind us today, and the mayor likes to talk about events like this, of us taking the opportunity to crowd the winner circle. And we're definitely doing that today. But there's been so many folks inside of City Hall and throughout these neighborhoods that have supported this effort, and we would enlist the community's support to continue to bring activities here to the Charles Young Center. But in closing, I'm very excited to join everybody here today for this recognition, very deserving of Charles Young Center and those that support it. Thank you so much.
Okay, and now we're going to hear from our Director of Historic Preservation for the city, and that is Betty Kerr. Betty?
Good morning. Well, I'm delighted to be here to join in the celebration for honoring the fact that the Charles Young Park and Community Center has achieved designation and listing on the National Register of Historic Places. It's a very significant recognition, but it's more than a recognition. It establishes the documentation and the procedural acknowledgement through meeting a very stringent criteria used to evaluate historic properties and resources all over this country for consideration for this designation on the National Register. And back several years ago, I became particularly aware of how much love people have for this park and this community center, not just as a physical element, but because of what it is to those people's lives and to Lexingtonians' lives. And the way that I really had that brought home to me was when the school, the William Wells Brown School, was getting started up in a planning sense, and the wonderful renovations and new construction that went on to provide new housing in the neighborhood. This property and this building were threatened by the roadway potentially being planned to be put through this property versus go to its side, that being what's now Shropshire Avenue. And so during the considerations in the federal processes and the state processes and the local processes that were involved in all that, it started back then, the review and establishment of what is the significance of this site from the federal regulatory criteria, and set forward the path to really put the sort of seal the fact that this is such a significant resource. And that reality is what, in large part, its significance and its importance is what steered Shropshire Avenue being placed to the side and acknowledged the significance of this, and the fact that it was so important needed to be preserved and further improved and made a reality to exist for many years in the future. So that federal intertwinement into the new development across the street is also, with the recognition and getting this National Register listing this today, is something that will help not only call people's attention to the significance of this site, but help protect it as time goes by. If somebody needed to widen 3rd Street, there will be additional reviews and such, not unlike what I just described, tied to the project several years ago for the housing and school. There's the potential for federal grants, not a high potential right now because grants aren't real prevalent in terms of dollars, but this designation will place the property in a position to be eligible for funds should such become available. And at the end of the day, what it really does is hopefully alert people to be excited about this significant resource that's part of their community. But I don't think we need to alert anybody in the East End, because I learned that they really cherish this whole park and its community center. And more people I've talked to over the years have talked about their memories, and several of the speakers have referenced that, of their fond memories and their sense of home place associated with Charles Young Park and Community Center. And I think that, above all, is the most spectacular part about this. So I'm delighted to be here. Thank you. And I think we should celebrate. Thanks.
All right, now for the big moment. Let me ask everyone if you all could shift over in this direction so we're behind the plaque, and then I'll ask Councilmember Brown and I will do the unveiling. We'll do this on the count of 3. Everybody, come on where you can get in the picture. Okay? Come on up close. Don't get behind it. Don't get behind it. Don't get behind it. All right, 1, 2, 3. Oh, we got some tape on here. We got some tape on here. There you go. Here we go.